Once upon a time, there was a boy named Danilo. He lives in a world where gravity turns on and off periodically throughout the day, with strict federal laws like a complete ban of gravity-inducing devices.
Moran is a Maasai warrior, born different from other warriors.
There was a stuffed bunny named Peaches who had the job of protecting Moxie the human from the monster under the bed.
There was a magical sword that didn't like to fight. Every day it lay in a cave, motionless without a wielder.
Every day, Louis would longingly stare out at the window from his house, wishing he could be enjoying nature and resenting the restrictions that were put on his freedom.
On the inside, she's very worried about hurting herself or others, getting caught up in her unluckiness.
Until one day, he saw aliens off in the distance putting up little lights where the stars should be.
But one day, his grandma confides in him that he will soon get the ability to see ghosts.
And because of that, she finally created her invention called the bicycle.
He moved out of his parents' house and was ready to go solo, but he had no money.
Because of that, the dog is going to school in Brandon's body while Brandon is trapped as a dog.
But once at the top, he fell inside the mountain, on top of the heart, and broke it in a million pieces.
However, this planet was entirely covered in water and filled with strange creatures.
Until one day, while he was singing loud and proud on stage, someone made a comment about his appearance and voice.
Mao thought about the other times that Sebas was blue, and then understood what the cupcakes meant to Sebas. So he took one, decorated it with frosting as best as a small child can, and gave it to Sebas.
After Finn's friend had to save him from a predator who tried to eat Finn, Finn realizes how much work he's been putting on his shoulders and how it's been affecting him.
Until finally, he finds one of his kids and realizes the others have families too, and he shouldn't get revenge.
The moral of the story is to engage in the activities that make you happy.
Facing your fears helps you and others.
Sometimes you have to take on challenges and risks, even if you don't think you're ready to take them.
Is you need balance in life.
Don't be afraid to reach out.
Or what she needs to learn is that your family doesn't only consist of your blood relations, the people like your friends, they get to grow close to.
This is me when I was really little. I always liked making things. I loved making costumes and writing stories and drawing, like just very imaginative from when I was little. And I really just loved animals too, as you can see. And I wanted to be a cat. Oh my God, it's all just cat stuff. Look at that. Maybe my cat will visit us during this session too. And I'll keep chasing your dreams. And I did, I kept drawing. I kept writing stories and more animals. That's a hat made for a guinea pig. But when I got to high school, I like to show this drawing because like I love drawing, but I got very like perfectionist and had a little bit less fun with it. Like I stressed myself out a lot. I like to just say this in intros about art making because I think something about animation especially is like it's so much fun. There's so much play involved. And it's something that almost like took me away from art making. Like I got to high school and it like stressed me out. I felt like there was a right way to do it or a wrong way to do it. And that's really just not true. But, you know, in that whole interim where I really wasn't sure if I was going to have a creative career, I called that the void. I was floating through the void. Really, it just felt like a void. I was gathering other skills, doing recon, getting relationships and life experiences that I brought with me when I went back to telling stories. But really, I wasn't sure if I was going to do something creative as my career until I saw Frozen. And it kind of like struck me. I'd never thought about doing animation before, but I went to go see Frozen with my sister. And it's so funny. I was watching Christian Roman, no relation to me, but I was watching his video from last week. And he said he had kind of a similar thing where he was an artist and he loved film, but he didn't know like, oh, I could just work in animation. It never clicked for him till a little later. And I had the same thing. Like I didn't consider animation until whatever that was, 2014, I think. and I saw it, and I remember like being in the theater like it was yesterday, and during the big Let It Go number, she builds this ice castle around her, and I was like, oh my God, this is what I want to do. So I took out a loan and I moved to New York, and I had no idea how it was going to go, but it just felt really right. And it was, I met my second family in animation, and I just loved it instantly. And it's a lot of hard work, but it was fun. Like I got to play again. That's what it felt like. So these are some storyboards from my thesis film, which was kind of what my program was about at SVA. Like everyone gets to make their own project. And that's where I got into storyboarding for the first time. And these are some finished frames, but the thing I loved so much about storyboarding was kind of, again, that like lack of perfection. Like I knew like this is just to communicate something. It doesn't have to be the final frame. We'll get to that later. This part's just fun. So even I like this drawing, it's just a scribble. And that's fine. You know, it's just about telling the story. It's not about drawing it perfectly. So I think, well, I'll finish up my how I got to Pixar quick, but then I'm actually going to show just a little trailer from my thesis film for everyone. But yeah, I went to Blue Sky right after grad school. I was a lighting intern. I went into the lighting technical director role there after that, and I was doing lighting and compositing for a couple of years, and always really interested in the brainstorm sessions and, you know, the feedback with the screenings. And eventually I kind of like worked my way into the story department. And then with the Blue Skies closure about a year ago now, I came over to Pixar with a lot of Blue Sky artists actually. And now I'm a story artist here. I'm in California now. My shirt says the what is it? Petrified Forest Park, California. New York to California. It's been great. I'm loving Pixar. I got to work on Lightyear, doing other things now, and I'll share this trailer.
I love hearing about one's path to where you are, and especially when people share that it's not always straightforward. You know, that there are some bumps along the way. Noah, do you want to pop on in and share a couple of questions?
The most requested question is, how do you approach a new script?
Yeah, honestly, I like to just kind of sit with it for a while. Like I'll read through it, and I'll just close my eyes and try to imagine like the 100 ways this scene could play out, maybe things that could be different, acting choices, things about it that really like sparked my interest. Honestly, when we get to do peer reviews today. So it's a really similar to the way that I would like watch a pitch or maybe watch an act one reel and like then think about what kind of feedback to give. I guess when you're a storyboard artist, you're almost giving like the visual feedback to what the script pages are telling you and maybe adding things or just trying to like really make it sing. But mostly I just try to, like sit with it and just be in it, like try to just live in it with my eyes closed for like a day, honestly. And then, just like whatever ideas stick and whatever things really excite me about it, that's when I'll start to like draw things or write things down and say, I want to really put this idea in there. And a lot of it just, kind of washes over you and doesn't end up in the final boards that you end up doing for it, or even the first pass of the boards that you do.
Can you comment on like what it's like being a woman in the industry and how you think that's impacted your experience?
I was getting into the industry right when things were starting to shift in a big way. I think it was like slow moving, where every year there'd be a couple more women on teams, a couple more, more women in even like higher up roles and chief roles, chief creative roles. And then within like 2 to 3 years, by the time I actually transitioned into story, it was like very close to being half and half. And coming into Pixar, it is like very much close to half and half here. Every single person brings something so different to each team that they're on. I have luckily really been on the upswing of all of that. You know, it feels pretty like even right now, and it's great. It's fun.
Hannah, it would be great if maybe you could share what you think of as the main components of an Act One and what structure a storyteller needs to establish so that they can have a successful Act One.
So Act One, minor beats. So yeah, I'm going to do like just a quick overview of these things that are really like that you want to keep in the top of your mind when you're doing your Act One. So first of all, you want to set up your main character, their wants, their struggles, what makes them unique or emotionally engaging, and your hook, which maybe that is your hook. Your main character's emotional, relatability might be the hook, but it's just that thing that's going to be like fun or entertaining or emotionally engaging and moving or interesting. You want to make sure you're spiking your audience's interest. And I think sometimes people get, including myself, like a little hung up like, oh, it has to be something no one's ever seen before. It doesn't. It could be the humor, it could be the tone. It's just something that's going to make your audience like want to keep watching. And sometimes it doesn't have to be unique, it just has to be engaging, right? And then some world building is going to be in there too. Again, something that sometimes others get a little lost in the world building where you get so excited about all the other things that you want to put into it, but it's always good to strip away and just think about what do you need for your emotional story. And Act One is where you're setting up all of those pieces of information, including information about the world that's just going to serve your character's arc. It's going to serve the theme or the moral. And then to end it, you want to end with something that launches you into the Act Two, which is called the inciting incident. In the story spine, it's that part where it's the until one day. It's the moment where either the character makes a choice or something happens that changes everything. We cannot go back, and it launches us into Act Two and Act Three. You want to give your audience all the information that they're going to need to know how they're going to feel about the rest of the movie. So I like to think of it like setting up bowling pins. I have a lot of metaphors today. But it is, you're setting up your bowling pins so you can roll the ball in your inciting incident and knock them all down in Act Three, right? Or like planting seeds so they can grow later. And a lot of times too, like you get to your Act Three and maybe an emotional moment, like it's not hitting the right way or something's not working and you think, why isn't this moment working? Maybe that moment works fine, but really there's something in Act One that needs to change or something you need to set up early on, which the fun thing about story is you can look at it from up here and keep moving parts around and keep changing things while it's in this sort of clay form and get everything fitting together right. So Act One is going to be made up of some major beats and some minor beats. So last week you guys did the story spine, and that's once upon a time, something was one way, and it was that way every day until the inciting incident, and that's your Act One. But your minor beats are going to be everything that links them together. It's that connective tissue. And each minor beat that you come up with is going to be, again, it's like planting these little seeds so that all of your major beats really feel like something to the audience. They know how they're supposed to feel about it. They're kind of acting as ammo for the explosion of the major beat to happen. Like this is all the information that the audience needs. The major ones are, these major beats of like what happens, it drives the plot forward. All your minor beats that you get to choose this week, it's like the nuance, the how did that happen? Why did it happen that way? How'd they feel about it? And all of this builds together to create or support your character's arc and the theme of your story, or maybe the moral of your story. I like to think that minor beats that are really good kill like at least 2 birds, maybe 3 or 4. Please help them. They ideally are going to tell you about the character, about what they want, maybe a little information about the world. Maybe it's going to, plant some sort of piece of information that pays off later, but like really efficient, good storytelling the minor beats are always doing a lot of jobs. Again, all of them supporting your character's arc, all of them supporting the theme of your story.
How do you introduce a character in a unique way? And like, what's a good hook?
I think the best answer for this is to try to just draw from your own experience or experience of people that you speak with and your friends. Like, you want to choose something that is really specific and real feeling, you know, showing to someone and seeing how they feel about it. And if they say, ooh, that hooks me, or, oh, I don't know, I don't relate to that. And then going from there.
I think we're going to actually take a look maybe at a story spine from this session. And that's just such a great way of kind of going deeper into Act 1 and minor beats. So I'm passing it back to you, Hannah.
So this is the story spine that this team was working off of.
Once upon a time, there was a girl named Harper. Harper was very shy. Every day, she went to school alone and wished that she had a friend. She wanted more than anything for someone to talk to. Until one day, she got a mysterious email. She clicked on it. It contained an odd file. Because of that, she met a digital avatar who invited her to explore the internet. This avatar taught her how to talk to others. Because of that, Harper made friends online. These friends checked in on her and seemed to genuinely like her. Because of that, Harper got more and more attached to her computer. She did not want to leave this digital world. Until finally, she was trapped in her room by her avatar. She escaped by destroying the computer. And ever since then, she has been working on becoming friends with people in real life. She has been trying to be more open and friendly, and she has met a lot of new people.
So this was their spine. Once upon a time, there's a girl named Harper. Harper's very shy. So like, as I was watching that, I was like, oh, why is she shy? Okay, what's her home life like? Where did this come from? Why is she this way? So maybe the minor beats will get into this. So I know what she wants. She wants a friend, clear goal, clear character wants. Until one day she got a mysterious email. She clicked on it and it contained an odd file. Mystery, drama, how can we make this feel like as dramatic and mysterious as it is? Like, that's the hook of the story too. And I almost want to get to it sooner. And these are all the things that we are going to keep in mind when we hear what their Act 1 is. And when we're talking about ideas we might have for minor beats, because this is, you know, there's the rest of the story they need to tell. So we're going to have to set up all of the bowling pins to serve the rest of the story. This is where we start to think about what do we need to set up in Act 1, because my question is, why is it so hard for her to make that decision to destroy her computer, to not be friends with that digital avatar anymore?
The first question that we'd like to ask is from Diego Torres, who asks, since Hannah has experience in lighting, could she possibly explain narrative relationships between lighting and storyboarding, specifically talking about Act 1 and minor beats?
Ooh, yeah. That's a really great question. I think lighting, like any other part of your story, it plays a narrative role. So you can choose what you want light to, like how you want light to operate in your story. Maybe like a story like this, the light of the computer screens and where that comes in and out of the story and how it relates to our main character. Maybe it just starts as her phone screen, but by the time we're in Act 2, all of the lights are very digital and bright, and it's like sort of her whole world, and maybe the natural light goes away. Like, these are all tools that we can use to help tell the story.
How important should each act be, and how important is it to have them be distinct and separate? And the same question kind of goes for minor beats. Like, how important is it that are they supposed to be equally valued? Do some have greater value than others?
Very good questions that you will be asking yourself forever, no matter how long you do it. The act, like the 3-act structure, breaking things down to it helps you organize your thoughts. It helps you organize your story in a way that is very readily digestible for an audience. This is like the structure that we're used to. And it's also the structure that we kind of intuitively look for as people. Like we take things and we sort of project this onto it, the beginning of the story, the middle of the story, the end of the story. Whatever you're doing, have a good reason to do it and make sure that it's emotionally communicating what you want it to. And this is a great place to start, and it works for so many movies for a reason. But also it's not the only thing that works.
Let's move forward with the next example you want to show, and we'll stop again for questions after.
So what I want to do is I'm going to move a little faster. I took a little too long, but I want to watch the Act 1 from this one, and then we'll get into the the next one, because I think it's good to see what they ended up choosing and sort of what feedback I would have about it. So, okay, let's play it. This is their act one that they chose. These are the minor beats that they chose.
Once upon a time, there was a girl named Harper. Harper was very shy. She worried a lot about how she looked and what she said. She was scared of saying or doing the wrong thing. Every day she went to school alone. She didn't have any friends. It was easier not to be seen because then she didn't have to worry about making mistakes. Still, she was very lonely. Until one day, she got a mysterious email. It contained an odd file. She opened it.
I really like that they picked things that were really getting into some specifics about the character's emotional state. You know, she is anxious. There's a lot of worry. She feels like she needs to be perfect to the degree that she kind of can't make decisions. She doesn't want to be seen by her peers because she's so afraid of the judgment. And I thought that really was like, okay, like I know who this character is, and I thought that was really great. But I do think that there's something called show me, don't tell me that you'll hear a lot when people are talking about stories. Sometimes they're talking literally about like visual storytelling, like show me in your composition and in the acting. Don't tell me through exposition. An example of this is in WALL-E. A beat would be, or a minor beat might be, WALL-E is lonely and longs for connection. And that's true. It's true about the story. But that's someone telling me that and not showing me it. And an example of showing me it is WALL-E watches a movie about love alone. He sees characters on screen sing a love song, hold hands. He records the song to keep it with him and holds his own hand. That's a pretty easy way to communicate like a character wanting something, is just have them look at it. You know, a little bit of like a cheat, a shortcut, but just have them watch. Drop hints about that avatar because that's such a hook. I would maybe have like the phone buzzing or like recording her so that when the final email comes and she decides to click on it, it's like the audience is already like, what is going on with these emails? What is going on with her phone? It just like, ooh, it stirs up the drama. That's such a fun thing. And then making the inciting incident, again, just like a more difficult choice or just emotionally loaded so that she doesn't know if she wants to open that email. Maybe she's afraid of the email. So this was a story spine from Aaliyah and AJ, and it's from this year. I'm gonna share it now, and we're gonna watch it together, and then we're gonna talk about some stuff that they might want to think about when they're doing their act one. Okay.
Once upon a time, there was a self-important and obnoxious rock called Toro who lived at the top of the Grand Canyon. Every day, he would make fun of the rocks at the bottom of the canyon for being inferior because he had the best view in the canyon. Toro wanted to have friends who think he's cool, which is why he touted himself as superior and amazing. Until one day, a child threw Toro at the bottom of the canyon for fun. In the fall to rock bottom, Toro was chipped, much to his annoyance. Because of that, Toro met a rock at the bottom of the canyon named Hermit. He demands Hermit to help him get back up the canyon. Hermit only agrees after Toro promises to stop degrading the rocks at the bottom. Because of that, Hermit leads Toro to a river, which they need to cross to get back up. Hermit tells him to take the long way around, but in his impatience, Toro tries to go his own route and is swept downstream. Because of that, Toro gets caught in between some rocks underwater. He cries for help, and in some self-reflection, he apologizes to Hermit for not listening. Luckily, Hermit saves him from the river, and they continue their journey. Until finally, Hermit leads Toro across a treacherous ravine. Hermit slips, but Toro grabs onto him as they both fall. Toro uses his body to block Hermit from the impact of the drop, causing him to chip enough for his inner Geo to shine. They eventually finish their journey and make it to the top, but Toro realizes he doesn't want to lose his friend. And ever since then, Toro went to live with Hermit at the bottom of the canyon. Toro learned that his narcissism prevented him from getting the friendship he desired, and that he needed to develop compassion for the rocks he viewed as inferior at the bottom of the canyon.
I'm going to pull my notes back up again. But I loved this story, Spine. What a cool. I like that they're, these sort of like socks coming alive in the drawer. What if rocks could talk? It's just like a fun little what if premise that I really liked. Sharing again. And I thought it had beautiful drawings, by the way, really beautiful drawings and staging. And there were just some things about it that I took note of that I would be thinking about if it were my story, or if I were, which I am, I'm talking to you, it's your story. If I were trying to give some sort of feedback about what to look for in your Act 1. So Toro the Rock, his big thing is like he wants friendship, but he thinks being cool and impressive is how he's going to receive the love. And this also is the exact thing that isolates him. So my question is, why does he think like this? And how can we make him, with our minor beats in our Act 1, a little bit more like emotionally relatable or engaging? And I love that he has the personality of like, he's obnoxious, he thinks he's too cool for school, but I do want that little bit of like, but why? The next thought I had was, can we make the end of Act 1 a little more active? So right now, Act 1, the inciting incident is that a child throws him to the bottom of the canyon, which is the worst thing that could happen to him, and I love that. But I did think like, well, a lot of times people like when the protagonist is more active in the inciting incident, like it's a decision that they make. So it could be that maybe he's climbing higher and higher, and he always wants to get higher and be better, and it sort of backfires and he climbs too high, Icarus in the sun, and he falls to his doom. Another thought I had that you might want to think about when you're doing your Act 1 is to try to like think about what your theme is going to be. Because right now you do have a really strong moral, which is you shouldn't, look down on people, and learn to have compassion for the rocks that he was judging, and that's how he's going to really get friendship. But I saw something, again, the theme versus the moral. I saw something like super strong in this spine that I just wanted to point out. Like he gets all chipped and he's not perfect anymore. Like at the beginning, he thought he had to be like strong and perfect, and that's how people were going to love him. So now he has like all of these holes all over him, but it's like beautiful. Like the geode is coming out, and that was such a cool image. Yet in the drawing, and I love this drawing, he looks like ashamed of it. I felt like this is a great example of like, oh, that geode getting revealed in the fall, like that's your theme. It's in there. So it was just a strong image. I wanted to point it out. And I'll wrap up by saying that if you could choose minor beats that kind of support that emotional arc, maybe also choose a minor beat that makes us like very aware of how impatient he is, because that river beat that you have where he wants to cut across the river instead of going around, it would be nice to know that he's really impatient leading up to that, as just like a character flaw, and also with the inciting incident, I kind of said this before, just maybe think about like how to make it a little bit more dramatic. And if you want to keep it as the kid, great. If you want to have him fall, great. Whatever it is, though, I just thought it could be a little more dramatic.
You've been discussing important things to add in to make the story more well-rounded, like to round out the story, to make it more impactful. And so what do you think should be edited out?
People always say, like, if it doesn't need to be there, cut it. That's like even a shot or an acting beat. Again, like you want to be really efficient. You only have so much time. If you're doing a short, you might only have a couple minutes. Like you want everything to be doing work in your story.
Along that thread, just a quick question before we move on to a few others. Do all the important characters need to be introduced in Act 1?
No, definitely not. I mean, probably a lot of times, a lot of them are, but no, I don't think so. So maybe the character doesn't need to be introduced, but like the information about that character that tells us how to feel when they are introduced, that should be introduced in Act 1.
Can you explain theme versus moral, please?
Moral is a little bit more like instructive. Like the moral of the story is be kind to your friends. Let's just say that. That's the moral of the story. Whereas the theme of a story is really just like the content that we're gonna like dance around and explore maybe. So maybe the theme of that story could be friendship.
What is your favorite first act in any movie? And should the viewers study it?
Oh man. A favorite, that's hard. I mean, I have like a million favorites. The WALL-E one is great. WALL-E Act 1 is WALL-E, the whole movie is great, but the Act 1's really great. That's something that I would look at and study for sure. Because that's a great example because it's a story that's so big and so small. Like all the minor beats, all of the stuff in Act 1, it's setting up like the big scope of the story of like the world and humanity and the universe. And it's also setting up this like extremely intimate story that's a love story. And it's doing both at the same time.
So many great insights, Hannah. Thank you. This is going to make really delving into Act 1 a lot not easier, because it's never easy, is it? But with a lot more tools in their hands. We only have a few minutes left, so what I'd love is some final words of advice from you as they delve into it. Any final parting wisdom?
Ooh, for Act 1 especially. I think I would say don't be afraid to let your story kind of evolve a little bit as you're going back into, you have your story spine, you have a strong idea about what your story is about, what your theme or what your moral is, or what your character is. But as you get into Act 1, sometimes it's kind of like your story tells you what it wants to be, or something might change a little bit. And I would just say, like, don't work against yourself. Like if something starts to emerge, like, oh, this image just strikes me and I'm gonna infuse more of this in Act 1. I wasn't expecting to, but I feel like that. Just go with your gut, go with what's exciting to you, and don't feel afraid to like mix things around and edit things and let the story evolve.
Yeah, I think that's so true and so important. What's great about the next few weeks is they're going to be working on Act 1, and then Act 2 and Act 3, and then have another whole week for revising. But each week, as they move, work on the next act, they're still revising the first act, and then the second act, and the third. So it's really the next 4 weeks are all about creating the rest of the flow of the story and revising, as you know, is what storytelling is all about.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thanks to all of you who have been here for the live session and those of you who are watching afterwards. More of your questions are going to go into the atrium, and Hannah has kindly agreed to answer some of them. So check back in there, and good luck. I hope that you just keep having fun, keep supporting each other, keep giving great feedback in the galleries, and we cannot wait to see your Act 1s. I think we're going to close out with, maybe some more of your work from this past week. So thanks everybody for being here. Thank you so much, Hannah and
Thank
Noah.
you for having me.
And yeah, hopefully we'll get you next time too.
Once upon a time, there was a boy named Danilo. He lives in a world where gravity turns on and off periodically throughout the day, with strict federal laws like a complete ban of gravity-inducing devices.
Moran is a Maasai warrior, born different from other warriors.
There was a stuffed bunny named Peaches who had the job of protecting Moxie the human from the monster under the bed.
There was a magical sword that didn't like to fight. Every day it lay in a cave, motionless without a wielder.
Every day, Louis would longingly stare out at the window from his house, wishing he could be enjoying nature and resenting the restrictions that were put on his freedom.
On the inside, she's very worried about hurting herself or others, getting caught up in her unluckiness.
Until one day, he saw aliens off in the distance putting up little lights where the stars should be.
But one day, his grandma confides in him that he will soon get the ability to see ghosts.
And because of that, she finally created her invention called the bicycle.
He moved out of his parents' house and was ready to go solo, but he had no money.
Because of that, the dog is going to school in Brandon's body while Brandon is trapped as a dog.
But once at the top, he fell inside the mountain, on top of the heart, and broke it in a million pieces.
However, this planet was entirely covered in water and filled with strange creatures.
Until one day, while he was singing loud and proud on stage, someone made a comment about his appearance and voice.
Mao thought about the other times that Sebas was blue, and then understood what the cupcakes meant to Sebas. So he took one, decorated it with frosting as best as a small child can, and gave it to Sebas.
After Finn's friend had to save him from a predator who tried to eat Finn, Finn realizes how much work he's been putting on his shoulders and how it's been affecting him.
Until finally, he finds one of his kids and realizes the others have families too, and he shouldn't get revenge.
The moral of the story is to engage in the activities that make you happy.
Facing your fears helps you and others.
Sometimes you have to take on challenges and risks, even if you don't think you're ready to take them.
Is you need balance in life.
Don't be afraid to reach out. Or what she needs to learn is that your family doesn't only consist of your blood relations, the people like your friends, they get to grow close to.